Hi guys, welcome to Deliver Studios. We're on the movie app and we're going to be enhancing the settings layout. Uh, Previously, we have the settings flow this way, which I'll be showing you right now. Rather than the emulator, I'm going to select a particular movie grid. Here we have the detail. We're actually not talking about the detail presently. We'll be looking at the settings layout. Right there in the overflow menu, we have the settings. If you notice, the settings page is not actually showing perfectly. This is not the appropriate way to display your settings page. We should have a toolbar where we could have the up button instead of the user clicking back. And on the selection, there should be a placeholder to tell if to depict what exactly has the user selected. From here, the user won't know that he or she is probably on the most popular or the highest rated or the favorite movies. So there should be a placeholder right there before the pop-up or just underneath the search order, which would depict which particular selection has been made. So we'll be actually covering this on how to set up a proper settings layout, which will have its toolbar and it's going to actually display gracefully. So I'll be at the studio where we have it set up this way. You'll be needing some couple of layouts. You'll be needing the fragment. You'll be needing a preference XML. Right? That's where you set up a preference. You might need an arrays if you're talking about a collection or a list. And also you will need your strings XML where you need to set up the label and also the attaching values. So right there in the settings activity, it extends the app compact this way, and the onCreate method, you get a fragment manager to begin transaction, where you get to replace the content with the settings fragment. You don't need to create a layout where a layout XML where you're dealing with settings in Android. Just try to replace, or let's say inflate a fragment right there in the activity, and the fragment is going to hold virtually everything you'll be doing on the settings layout. So after that, you commit and you get that set up. So you have a settings activity separate. You don't try to embed them together. Separation of concerns are very important for robustness. Because you might have a lot of functionality in your settings page. You might have a list, you might have a checkbox, you might have a switch. You might even have just a mere edit text, so you need to actually do it very well. After that, you must create a class called the settings fragment. In the settings fragment, that's where you could start to show your concern. If you have a list, if you have a checkbox, if you have a switch, if you have an edit text, depends on what kind of settings widgets are you using. Since we just have to select from 3 different values, which is the favorite, the most rated, and the popular, I believe a list will be cool where you need to toggle through those values. So in the settings fragment, you extend the preference fragment and you implement the on preference change listener. You do your preference change listener here. Don't do your preference change listener in the activity, in the main activity. You do it right there in the settings fragment. When you implement that, a change on the preference or on the settings or what you select is going to actually be persistent with the preference, with the shared preference. That's just what that the preference change is going to listen to any change you make it when you're trying to select another value from your preference screen. In the onCreate, this where you need to make a reference to the preference XML. The preference, the settings fragment will need an XML, which is called the preference XML. We'll get to look at the content of this preference XML before going back to implementing the bind preference summary and the change itself. The preference XML, this is how it's going to look like. Let's get to look at a preview of what the preference XML should flow. It has a list preference. This is where you set up the kind of preferences you need. A list, a check, a toggle, switch, edit text, name it. we're going to be using a list preference with a title of sort order where we have that in the string. Don't add code string values, specify them in the string.xml. We have the key, the sort order, which is pointing to the string preference sort order key. There should be a key which will have a default value. So in probably in the first launch of the app, in the settings page, there should be a default value, there should be default loading, which you need to select, which is the most popular. That will be the default. You have a summary. The summary is like the placeholder I mentioned that will get the selection of what particular value have you selected. Have you selected the popular? Have you selected the most rated, or have you selected the favorite? So the default the summary is going to actually depict that. Now you have to choose an order to sort. Probably if you've not actually chosen anything, it's going to get it to do that. And you have a dialog title, which is going to be shown in the dialog of the list preference, which is actually going to be a label to tell you sort by what are you sorting by. And you have the entries and the entry values. In the entries, that's where you point to the array where you have the whole entries with their corresponding values. We get to look at the arrays. The arrays.xml that you could see the first list preference you could see here is the string array where you have the entries. You have the most popular, the top rated, and the favorites, and its corresponding values also. That's preference sorts by values, the most popular, top rated, and so on. So that's just what you have in your preference XML. Cool. After that, you move back to settings fragments, and let's get to bind all other stuff together. You call the preference, you find the preference, which is the sort order, and you bind the preference summary to the value, which is the order by what are you ordering by. Where you get to talk about the preference, the bind preference summary. So now it's going to take the key, the order by you going, which is the preference. So it's going to set on preference change listener to the preference object, where you're going to call the shared preference, because this is just you persisting your settings values. Now you call the shared preference where you get to call the get string. Now you get the key, which is the preference key you pass in from the preference object. You get the key and its default value. On preference change, which is going to in turn call this overriding method because you have implemented the preference on preference change listener. So it's going to get the on preference changed for you. So after that, you get to check the preference object if it's an instance of the list preference in line 28 here. So if it is, you move further. That's how you get to know the kind of preferences you're looking at. Is it a list? Is it a checkbox? Is it a toggle? It depends on the kind of preference you're using. We have other preferences you could lay your hands on. It depends on the need which your app is required. Now you get to check the index of the preference based on its value. And if the preference index is greater than 0 or equals to 0, it's going to actually generate the character sequence, which is an array of labels, where you get from the entries, the list preference entries, you get to extract the character sequence, just a string value. Now you're going to call preference set summary to the label. That's the summary itself, which you talk about, where you get to know what particular selected value would show. Probably you sort order by popular. Popular should show anytime the user comes to the preference or to the settings activity. You should be able to see beforehand that, oh, we are in the popular, oh, we are in the most rated. Now let me toggle and let me change the preference. So that's just it. You have this set up perfectly. This is the best way to go, and this is the robust way to set up your settings, any settings activity you're using. We're using a list preference. That's why you have it specified this way. We have other preference you could lay your hands on. So with this, we're good to go. Let's get to look at the strings. You need to set up your strings value, and you get to don't add code string values. Now you won't need to in the main activity that calls it, because on back you're going to have a restart. Let's say you're going to have on resume. which is going to call anytime you clean a back button. You're going to check the sort order. So you don't need to do a listener here. You don't need to implement the shared preference unchanged listener. You might not need this, which is this. You don't really need the change listener because you've already specified the change listener over there, so you don't need the change listener. So cool. Now, if you're trying to get this done, you look at you get the default shared preference, and you get the sort order, which is the preference is going to get a string based on the label and the value. So that's just the key and the value pair. That's what the shared preferences listen to. So after that, when you get that, you're going to have your most popular based on the sort order key, and you have your most rated based on the key as well, and the favorite based on the return key. So that's where you get to look at this. So you have it simplified and it's slim and good to go. Now sentence activity is going to look kind of different from what we have. So I'm going to test this on this emulator for us to see how the flow is. So don't go anywhere. Let's get to test this. We have our emulator out there. Now I'm going to run okay. So here we go. Let's get to do a test in the movie app. All right. Yeah, we have that. So peep on the overflow. Look at the settings. Can you see the different experience? Now we have the settings labeled visibly, and you have the up button, which takes you back to the main activity. You have the list, the sort order, and you could know from looking at that you're right there in the most popular list. So if you need to toggle, click on that, and you have the dialog sort by what? Sort by the highest rated. Can you see it showed on that summary? So the summary is now highest rated. From there, you could click your up button to go back to the movie app instead of the back button. So now you have a better user experience with this flow. You have a more enhanced settings page, which I will implore you to try out in any application you might be creating a settings page. Just do this flow. You have a better experience. Let's get to look at the movie favorites. You can see the favorite movies, and the up button takes you to the favorites. Thank you very much. In the next video, we'll be talking about how to persist the most rated and the popular movies. We'll be persisting the list using the saved instance state, and as well we're going to maintain the scroll position of the recycler view alongside. So those two implementations will be done in the next video. Don't go anywhere. Thank you very much, and don't forget to share the video, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and God bless.